Hello, welcome to our new year bullet journal setup. So let me run through what we're going to need, not only for this bullet journal setup, but also for our January bullet journal theme. So we are looking at using watercolour today. So don't be too scared if you're not used to using watercolour. We're going to do some really easy basic shapes and I'll take you through. So I'm going to be using my watercolour set. You will also need some paintbrushes. I am going to be using quite a medium head brush, this flat brush, which is going to be really great for doing the trees. I'll explain in a bit more detail, and a smaller fine tip brush, pencil and a rubber, because we're going to just do some outlines and we'll need to rub those out. And I have two fine liners, one is a 0.1 and one is a 0.8. And of course, your journal or whatever you wish to work in. So let's have a little look at what we've created. So here is our welcome page to the new year. So as you can see, there's this kind of like wintry theme here, and there's a moon there, our 2023 page, and I've slightly laid this out wrong, but you've got 2023 goals and you'll have space for your vision board as well. So let me show you the template, which is included in this Patreon post. So here you've got your first page graphics, and then your goals page and space for your vision board. So if you haven't been with us before, let me explain how the templates can work. You can have this in front of you and you can kind of copy it, or you can do your own version. You can also do a little hack where we rub pencil across the back of where we want to trace, like so. And then when you put this down on your page and write over it, that will trace through. So let's get started with our layout. So this is how we're going to lay this out in our journals. So I have done a light tracing. So what I want to do is just get an idea of where things are going to go. So all I need to do is just mark out this circle. This is all I want to do right now. And then I would list, I'm just going to zoom in for you. I'm just going to give myself a guideline of where I want the trees to be. So I know that I want just some trees in the background that are kind of like there. So I'm just going to mark that out, and then I want trees in the foreground which are here, and that will make a bit more sense when we start filling in the trees. So if you can see, because it's a really faint mark, that is what's left on my page. So we're going to start with our moon, and what we want to do is, if you're using the Lifestyle Planner journal, the pages are quite thick, but they won't take a huge amount of water, so we want to just be careful with how much we load our brush up. So I'm taking my medium brush and just loading a little bit of water, and I'm going to actually, whilst the water's clean, just do a light wash into the circle that I've marked out. And then I'm going to take a mixture of blues. I've got a light blue and white, and I'm just going to put some dots around, and I'm going to actually add in a small amount of black or a darker blue, just to give some kind of darker, and I'm just going to dot that around. And then I'm going to use a slightly wet brush just to blend these colours in. Doesn't need to be exact. In fact, I like the fact that it's a little messy. And we're just giving ourselves a little outline of a moon, really faint. And I've not done my moon exactly circular, so I'm just going to neaten up these edges. Pretty sure the moon's probably not an exact circle, but It does look it to us, doesn't it, when it's a full moon. Okay, so I've just neatened up those edges. If you wanted to add in a little more, you could take some of your darker colours and you could just kind of dot some darker areas around using the water. Now, the thing about today's tutorial is because we're working with watercolour, we're going to need to wait for things to dry. So it's always handy to have a cup of tea. So I would say once we've done a wash, we'll go have a little cup of tea and have a wait. But we can get started with the shadows of the trees. I'll have a slip of my tea. So for the shadow of the trees, we're going to use a mixture. I'll just show you my palette, but not many people have this palette. Most people have like a, this one's a Japanese brand called Sakura, I think. So not many have these colours, which is why I can't give you the references. Also, if you notice, they're all in Mandarin or Japanese, I'm not sure which. But actually, my son might be able to help me since he's been learning Mandarin. But as you can see, I've got kind of like a dirty blue mixed up, which is blue and white with a little bit of navy mixed in. And again, using a little bit of water, I'm just going to follow this line, that back line, which was my tree line, and I'm just doing almost like how I would do a Christmas tree. So I'm going to do a couple of dots and then just almost like a zigzag wash down. And you can add different shades in by making this a little bit darker if you wish, just to give a little bit of difference. I'm going to mix a little bit more black onto my brush and load that up, and then again just kind of like scribble down, and this is the baseline behind our trees. So we don't need to fill it all the way to the bottom because we will be adding in some foreground trees as well. So I'm just gonna change that up a bit, give it a little bit of difference. Just filling in the foreground. I think I'll go with a little bit more black in for the next one. And maybe a bit more blue for this one next to it. And that's it. So what we're going to do there is we're going to leave this to dry. If you want, let's zoom out. That's where we're at. We're leaving it there to dry. And whilst that's drying, because we can, let's move on to our next page. So for this one, we're going to use the 2023. And I'm actually going to cut my paper in half because I don't want that to kind of sit on top and make it dirty. So I'm just going to cut this off so that I can place it a bit easier on my page without covering. I mean, you can totally cut this out and stick it in. You don't even have to draw it. It is totally up to you. So I'm just going to trace over this, and I'll show you again. It's going to leave us with a faint line. You see a really faint 2 there. So I'm just going to finish this and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so we've got a really faint marking for where we want our 2023. I'm going to use my small pointed brush and the same colours that I've been using on the moon and the trees, but just a little bit more concentrated. So not as much water and a bit more paint. And I'm just gonna fill in these details where it's 2 and 0s with this nice kind of dirty blue colour. And so I'll speed up and join you the other side. So whilst this is nearly dry, I'm going to spin us over to the next page and let's have a little look at what we're going to do on this side. So on here we are going to have our goals page and a space for our vision board for 2023. So really straightforward. Again, with my little tracing hack, I'm going to trace through the writing, and the rest is going to be pretty straightforward because it's just a simple colour wash behind. And then I'm going to use my Tombow pens just to create some lines where I can list out those goals that I've been working on this week. And I'm very excited. I got all of my vision boards out, which I might take us through on stories one day next week maybe, because I was showing my sister all of my boards and it's amazing how much I've actually achieved. You know, I'm not saying every single thing on my vision board has come to light, because it hasn't. There's certainly some things on this year's vision board that are carryovers from last year. And then also there's some things that have kind of changed and actually maybe not as important. It didn't get done last year and actually it's not as important this year. So priorities have changed a little. But yeah, I just think since I've been doing vision boards, I've just been so much more focused and I've made things happen. You know, I talk a lot about vision boards are not a magic trick. You have to put the work in, but just seeing it there every day, knowing where you're going, having some action plans for where you're going makes all the difference. So on here now we've got a really faint outline, so we know where our writing is going to go. And underneath goals I just want a really easy simple wash, so I'm going to use my medium round head brush and I'm going to pick up some water and just run it through the middle there. That's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to use the water, mix it with that stormy blue and just spread that over. I want it just to be a light wash. I can add a little bit of pigment in, just drop it into the water, but as I say, you've got to be careful with the water. It's not watercolour pages. You might have watercolour paper in your journal because there are artists' journals, so lovely if that's what you've got. You don't need to worry, you can go ahead, but I just need to be a little bit careful with how much water I add to my brush. I love that, look at that, just spreading out. I love it when it does that. And then just going to blend that through a little bit. So that's quite a moody kind of blue colour there. Let's add a little bit more. There we go, just blend that in, okay. So again, I'm going to leave that to dry. But whilst that's drying, I've already copied over my title, which just says vision, quite straightforward. And I'm going to use a 0.8 pen, which seems to be my go-to at the moment. So whenever you see my titling, it's using, I'm just going to pull up my sleeve because it's a little bit wet and I don't want to get my paper wet. So I've copied over where I've written vision and I'm just going to add that in black. And I'm actually underneath here, I'm going to use my 0.1 pen because I want this to be a really fine outline of that 2023. So I've got a very creaky table, sorry if you can kind of hear that as it creaks around. So hopefully you've had a chance to look at the vision board tutorial. If not, go take a look at that and have a little look at creating your vision board, because what I did is I took a photograph of my vision board and then printed it out so that now I can add it into this page. And I've done a few times when we've done our quarter year checks, I have opened up and gone back to this page quite a few times. I'll pull out last year's design and I'll show you. So I've already printed it out. It doesn't quite fit, so I might just have to trim that down. So that's going to go, or maybe I could do it like that. That's going to go in there. It does say Vision 23 down here anyway. So that's going to go into my planner, so it's easy access. And then when this page is dry, we'll come back and type, do our titling with our pens. Let me go through and see what am I going to use for my lines. I think I'm going to fill in my lines on this page. So I'm just going to go in really simple like this. I'm going to leave enough space because I want to be able to write on those lines. I want to write in my goals. So I'm just going to go through the page and do that. Again, you could totally just use my printout and cut it out and stick it in. And you can do that for everything. You don't have to do your own. Okay, so that's all we need to do on there until that dries. So let's flip back to our moon, because now I feel a bit more confident about using that. So you can freehand and you can do anything you like. I'm gonna trace over the type font from here, so just make sure that my moons are aligned. I'm actually going to use a pen because it'll just be able to press through a little bit heavier. So I'm going to use one of our hexagon gel pens because they've got a really nice point on them. So if you can see, it's a really nice point. I'm just going to line up my moons and trace over. It's just going to give me a sharper edge because I'm using a heavier point than a pencil, and hopefully we'll be able to see it underneath. And it's easier to control this way. Yeah, that's transferred lovely. So there's our happy new. And this is the bit where it looks so lovely and neat and tidy, and then you try and hand draw it and your lines are a bit wobbly, but that's what I like about it. I like the wobbliness, I like the uneven. Okay, let's get our new year in. Okay, so you can see it's a very faint line, very faint. So we can go ahead now and use our fine liners. I'm going to be using my 0.8 for happy and new. So I'll fill this in and speed up the camera as I'm doing it and join you once that's done. Okay, so as you saw, I swapped over for the last part there to my 0.1 when I was doing that outline of year. And now we need to look at doing our second line of trees. So I found a little hack for this, which is using a flat brush. So what we want to do is mix a slightly stronger blue than the one that we've been using. So I'm going to go in with, let me just zoom out a minute so you can see my colours. This is the colour that I've been working with. I've mixed together this blue. So I'm just going to add in a little bit more of that kind of aqua blue, peacocky blue, with, I've got some stronger blue over there. Again, I can't really give you the reference for these because I don't have them and I can't read the Japanese. I have got it on my wish list to get a new paint palette. I must say though, if you're really interested in learning how to do better watercolour painting, you must check out Harriet de Winton's Patreon. So you already know how Patreon works because you're with us on Patreon, and hers works exactly the same, and you get some lovely tutorials to work your way through and some expert advice from Harriet herself. I kind of just wing it in terms of technique and stuff. I don't really paint as much as I'd like to. Maybe I should put that on the vision board to have more time, but now, as you know, I've taken on a little part-time job, so my spare time's got even less and less now. So it's not easy at all fitting the things that I love in. I think it's going to take me a bit more time to work out the best way of getting the most out of my time. So I've mixed together quite a darker colour actually, but what we can do is we can lighten that as it goes on. So I'm using my flat brush. I'm going to zoom in for this. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow this kind of inner line that we made, if you can still see it. If not, don't worry, just go back to your image and just kind of go by eye. So I'm going to do like a faint kind of thin line, and then I'm just going to do a couple of dots at the top, almost like the start of our tree. And then I'm using the flat end of the brush. Let me zoom in a bit more. I'm using the flat end of the brush to kind of create the trees, branches, and I'm just going to go left to right, filling that in. I feel a bit Bob Ross, if anybody remembers Bob Ross. I remember he used to use a really wide kind of fan brush when he was doing this, and when I started doing this yesterday, I got flashbacks to watching Bob Ross when I was younger and thinking, oh wow, that's such a great idea. So yeah, here's a bit of Bob Ross for you. And if you don't know who that is, I think you need to go and Google it, because it's a bit of a legend really when it comes to painting. He always used to do oils, but he used to make it look so easy, but also used to just be really chilled out watching him. I never painted anything he did, to be honest with you. It was just so calming and relaxing. And he would call things happy accidents. So, you know, if something went where we didn't want it to go, he would call it a happy accident. And I kind of like took that through into life a bit, I think. I don't know if you heard that on camera, but some lorry beeping. And we're actually not really anywhere near a hugely main road, so I'm not sure where that lorry is, but he obviously was letting somebody know. So what we're going to do is just do this for all the trees at the front. So I will speed the camera up because it's going to take me a little bit of time to fill these in. But, as you can see, with this flat brush, it makes things a lot easier. But if you don't have a flat brush, not to worry, you can do exactly the same technique, just with any brush that you've got. So we're going to do, I'll do one more before I speed up. So I'm going to do almost like a stalk, and then a few dots at the top, get them a bit wider, and then just kind of angle those branches down. I'm going to add a bit more colour to my brush just to give it different depth, and we're going to do that all the way down. I'm going to just add a bit different colour into the middle. Bring it down. Oh, it's so Bob Ross of me, honestly. You have to go check him out. It's exactly what he would have done. Okay, so let's zoom out for a bit and I'll speed up the rest and join you on the other side. Okay, so let's zoom out, and this is where we've landed with our foresty, wintry New Year scene. And we just need now to wait for this side to dry. So I'd say head off and have another cup of tea if you've still got one. And if you did have one, did you manage not to dip your paintbrush in it? Because I nearly did about 3 or 4 times. But I'm gonna have a little bit now of a break and we'll come back when this is dry. Okay, so this is dry. You might find that your page is bubbling a bit, but don't worry, because after all year of having your journal closed, this will soon straighten out. So let's turn over. I've had a little bit of a bleed through onto that side because I was a bit impatient and I didn't wait long enough. So zoom in, because the last thing to do is to fill in our titling on this page, and then we are done. So I'm just going to grab a paper clip to keep my paper down. Just helps keep it down when I'm writing. I'm going to move it a bit further down. Okay, so our titling, I am going to use my 0.1 to outline. Oh, actually, no, because I'm going to do it in solid. I'm going to use my 0.8 fine liner, and I'm going to just go over where I've traced, and this should all be dry now. So you can leave this as a outline if you prefer, or you can colour it in any colour you wish. You might want to do it in blue. You don't have to follow my template at all. But I'm actually going to fill it in black. I just wanted to do the outline just to get some control. So there's our 2023, and I'm just going to scribble in goals there. And then I'm going to use my Tombow black just for speed, because the felt tip brush end can get that space filled in quicker. But I've already got the outline, so I know it's going to be neat and tidy, as long as you can colour within the lines. Always used to be a bugbear when the kids were little. That and Play-Doh, mixing colours, oh my goodness. When you just end up with a red browny blob of Play-Doh, it would just do things to me. I would not say that I had any kind of OCD or anything, but I just, when it comes to colours and keeping things tidy, I do like it. Mixing it just messed with my brain. Okay, so all that's left to do now is just to rub out any pencil lines that you have. And obviously I'll be sticking in my vision board. So let's zoom out. I'll be sticking in my vision board onto this page just with a little bit of glue and Pritt stick. I've got 2023 there, and I've got my New Year page all ready to go. So I hope you enjoy that, getting a little bit creative. And if you are with us for our creative members, I'll be back shortly to talk you through our cover page for January's bullet journal. So enjoy yourself over the rest of Christmas and the New Year's holiday. Happy New Year. And I can't wait to journal with you more next year.